Computer, open comms. Start recording. This is Recon 1. I've just arrived at my target location. The Cuddy's positioned in orbit above Aberdeen, and I'm going to be starting my atmospheric descent just as soon as the scanners have finished doing a sweep of the area. There's only two known landing zones that are set up on Aberdeen, the HDMS Norgard and the HDMS Anderson. From what I understand, both of them are supposed to be almost cut and paste copies of one another. But that's got to be verified, and the area surrounding both of these sites needs to be rescanned and then compared to maps that have been previously taken of those locations. My job, as stated in my contract, is to visit both sites, evaluate them, and make a recommendation based on their viability for being used as a staging ground for further activity. Now, I could do my job a whole lot better if they just let me in on a few minor details, you know, like what they plan on using the outpost for, how big the landing force is going to be, and how long they plan on staying. You know, little things like that. But from what they tell me, that'd be a breach of security, so I guess I need to gather up all available information that I can, and I'm going to let them sort out the rest for themselves. According to the scanners, the Norgard LZ is currently located dead center of the dark side of the moon. And Anderson is slowly going from daylight to dusk, so I'm going to head down to Anderson first and hope that she still has a few good hours of daylight left in her. With any luck, I'll be able to get some recon work done before it completely turns away from the sun as well. Personal log. Entry 1. Now I know what you're thinking. Why would anybody send someone out to go scout a landing zone that's been established for quite some time already? Well, getting information isn't the problem. It's getting accurate information that's the issue. Information is a gluttonous resource right now. There's so much of it on everything that trying to sort through it and verify it is almost as arduous a task as going out and gathering it for yourself. So the first step in any expedition is to send out a recon unit ahead of time to acquire as much up-to-date information as possible, and then take what we know about a particular area and match it up against what's been found. The powers that be then take that information and use it to update their personal databases. That's where I come in. Everything needs to be verified. It needs to be updated, it needs to be time-stamped and logged in. The more up-to-date the information is, the more likely it is to be valid. And when it's taken by a first party, it has a tendency to be more accurate. Which also means that it's going to be more dependable. Plus, they also get the added benefit of being able to dictate which details I'm going to be focusing in on. Okay, scans are finished, and I'm going to start my descent now. I'll be cutting back in if there's anything new to report. Recon 1 out. I'm currently just a few minutes outside of the Anderson landing zone, but you wouldn't know it from the view outside of the window. The atmosphere is so thick that visibility has been reduced down to a couple thousand meters in front of me. Anything after that disappears into a putrid-looking yellow haze that seems to go on in every direction. I don't remember reading anything about the atmosphere being this dense in any prior record, so I just want to make sure to make a note of it here in my report. I've touched down without incident and have already started with my evaluation of the Anderson outpost. A cursory glance at the HAB's exterior tells me that the entire structure seems intact and surprisingly well tended to, especially considering its age and how infrequently it ends up getting used. There's even signs of it still having active power, which means someone has been here recently. I mean so recently that I'm surprised we didn't pass each other on the way down. Of course, when you consider that pea soup that they call an atmosphere we might have and didn't even know it. My first instinct would be to think that it was pirates or some other transient group that took refuge here temporarily. But the place has been too well maintained for that. Both the landing pads look spotless and there's no trace of garbage anywhere around the outpost. It even looks like the exterior of the buildings have been scrubbed clean. It's as if whoever was here didn't want to leave even the slightest trace of their presence behind. I know this sounds kind of paranoid, but that's what my instincts are telling me. And there's 4 standing structures built on the Anderson site. A mining control center, a storage facility, a habitation pod, and even a platinum base station. The mining facility has long since been shut down, and all of my attempts to revive it have failed. The storage facility is well stocked and has enough components stored away to keep the outpost running for several years. The HAB area could easily accommodate 6 people and would make a good command and control center to run operations out of. The inside of all the HABs are clean, and I mean spotless. spotlessly clean and sanitized from floor to ceiling. I know this is a rehab, but this is well maintained even by their standards. Personal log. There's something going on here that I'm having a tough time wrapping my head around. There's all these signs that people have been here before, but it all feels so, I don't know, artificial somehow. I couldn't find one personal effect or anything that would link back to an actual person anywhere in the complex. And I can't shake this feeling that any evidence of who the previous occupants were have been deliberately removed from the outpost. I checked and even the computers have been wiped clean. But why would somebody do this? What are they trying to hide? I finished my evaluation of the Anderson LZ, and I'm going to be moving on to survey the area surrounding it next. I already performed a long-range scan from orbit as I descended to this LZ and set the ship to do a more detailed 360 scan of the area from the landing pad. No points of interest were detected, so I'm going to go out and do an old-school up-close and personal eval of the area from the back of my Nox. I've traveled roughly about 10 kilometers away from the outpost, and that same yellow haze seems to follow me everywhere I go. If it was naturally occurring fog, then the sun would have burned it away by now. But it's been present ever since I arrived. There's nothing in any of the reports about this moon of there being a global atmospheric condition like this. It's either completely new or any trace of it's been stricken from the records. I've since performed several atmospheric checks and it registers as having the same chemical composition as always. I'm still not taking off my helmet though. The first thing I notice about the landscape is the number of dead trees. They all seem to have had their extremities rotted away, leaving only the stump behind. And it's not just one, but all of them. Every tree here. And they seem to have all died at once, or at least around the same period of time. There are still some small isolated patches of scrub grass dotting the landscape, but much like the trees, they seem to be on the way out as well. It's a landscape that's depressing enough to inspire poetry. No avians travel the skies, and no insects buzz around amongst the decay. The entire moon seems to be barely hanging on to what little life remains clinging to it. The landscape itself is riddled with lightly colored veins of soil that give the land a sickly appearance that stretches off endlessly amongst the small clusters of stones that make up a majority of the groundwork. Dust clouds that range from knee-high to being big enough to fully cover my ship are constantly being kicked up by a perpetual breeze that seems to emanate from every direction. All evidence points to the landscape having been recently devastated, and the sky is full of a mysterious thick yellow mist. Is this what the team is coming to investigate? Hurston's been in the business of creating weapons of all kinds, but are they now in the business of creating biological weapons as well? And they wouldn't have any problems testing such a devastating weapon on a wide scale as this, since as most people know, Hurston's been using these moons as a testing platform for their weapons for some time now. This whole place has made my skin crawl ever since I first arrived, and I think I know why now. I think it's about time I made my way back to the ship. The sun is dropping faster than I expected, and at this rate I'll be lucky to make it back to the outpost before nightfall. Funny how even in the dead of night there's still enough reflected light to silhouette the decaying trees against the firmament. An incandescent glow seems to cling to the horizon line that casts shadows in every direction, while the breeze and dust makes everything seem like it's constantly on the move and creeping about. It's been a long day, so I'm going to camp here for tonight and plan on heading off to the Norgard outpost first thing in the morning. Personal log. I could have sworn that I saw something moving out there amongst the dead trees and the clouds. It looked like it was big enough to be the husk of a derelict, but that's crazy. Anything that big would have definitely been picked up during my sensor sweep of the area. I guess I could sleep in one of the habs, but I'd much rather sleep in the ship tonight. This place is really creeping me out, and I want to be sleeping as close to a gun turret as I possibly can. Whatever that shadow was, it can wait till tomorrow morning. But for now, it's been a long day, and I need to get some sleep. was that noise? Probably nothing. Probably just the wind. I'll go back to bed.